Opening statement from my good friend too, the ranking member, Mr. Hensarling. Please, for 5 minutes, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I believe that there is no greater consumer protection than an informed consumer, a competitive marketplace, and a well-policed marketplace that ferrets out fraud and deception. What I do believe is unfair, though, is artificially increasing people's interest rates or artificially taking away their credit opportunities by deciding really arbitrarily what may be fair and what may be unfair. Now, if this is a markup to decide whether or not credit card companies are popular, my guess is it's about 98 to 2 against. But in the midst of a recession, when we know all the data shows that we are in the midst of a great credit contraction, I fear again, as many pieces of legislation that come through this committee do, that the cure may prove worse than the illness. There are a lot of problems in the marketplace. Clearly, consumers are given disclosure statements that they cannot understand. I think there's a number of reasons for that. I believe clearly that some credit card companies are purposely misleading consumers. And there are plenty of laws on the books today with which to deal with that. There's also a number of companies, though, that due to the threat of lawsuit, of liability exposure, put in pages and pages and pages of disclaimer. And the federal government as well has been guilty. And I think we end up with a phenomenon whereby disclosing everything, in some respects, we may not disclose anything. And what we should be doing is ensure that the consumer receives effective disclosure written in English and not voluminous disclosure written in legalese. But ultimately, we should not substitute our judgment for their judgment. One of the great benefits in the credit card industry in recent years has been the benefit of risk-based pricing. Risk-based pricing allows people who previously didn't have access to credit to have that access, because those who choose to extend the credit have the opportunity to price for what they believe the risk to be. It also allows the over half of America that uses their credit cards to pay their bills on time at the end of each month to get away from those dreaded annual or monthly membership fees that were so common, that were the rule in this economy for decades and decades and decades. And although I do believe there are several aspects of this legislation that would be helpful, that would help improve matters, I do believe that it is overly prescriptive. And once we go down the road of deciding for consumers what is in their best interest and what is not in their best interest, we start taking their credit opportunities away from them. And if they start to lose their credit cards, what is next? I believe that, for example, I know we're having a hearing on payday lending tomorrow. And so maybe some consumers, if they lose their credit card, may be forced to deal with payday lenders. That may not be their best option. They may be forced all of a sudden to go to pawn shops. They may start to have to bounce checks. We as a nation need to be looking for opportunities to increase the economic viability of the consumer. But by artificially restricting their opportunities, that's not the way to go. And I've looked at the experience of our friends on the other side of the pond in the UK. They passed similar legislation in 2006, and what happened is that there was indeed an increased contraction of credit. I believe 2 of the largest issuers started monthly fees, and 19 of 20 of the largest issuers hiked up interest rates. And if you push in on one side of the balloon, it pushes out somewhere else. Small business especially uses credit cards to sustain their businesses. Any legislation that would contract credit in the middle of the recession is something that this committee should not do. But at the end, let me say also, to add my compliments to the gentlelady from New York, she is one tenacious lady, and I know she spent a lot of time on this, and I suspect as a member of the minority, I can predict the outcome of this markup, and I sense she will be pleased. And with that, Mr. Chairman, I yield back the balance of my time.
Thank you very